Hi guys, welcome to the first episode of the Disney Catalogue. I'm co-editor-in-chief Derek Cornell.
And I'm co-editor-in-chief Skyler Shuler.
Yeah, you are editor-in-chief.
Yeah, we're co-hosts.
I'm your glorified assistant. Yeah. Oh, I haven't said that in forever.
Oh, boy.
If you guys listen to the other... Anyway, so just to kind of intro what this is we take apart Disney movies. So we're going to do everything in the Disney Catalogue. The name.
I love it.
So, so this is a DisInsider podcast for those if you just come across, our YouTube page. So you see a bunch of videos we have done already. The DisInsider, if you can see our shirts, we represent the DisInsider.
Yep.
You can kind of tell.
You're on the YouTube channel or on the podcast.
Anyway, so we put up a poll on our, not on Instagram. We only have a Twitter. It's at the Disney Catalogue, which you guys can go follow. And our own Twitter handles are in the bio, so give us a follow. So we put out a poll saying which company do you guys want us to talk about first, and Marvel won like a landslide. Yeah.
And then for those that voted on other projects such as Star Wars or, Disney live action, Disney animation, or Pixar, we're going to dive into all the various Disney studios. That's what the Disney Catalog's all about. But since the majority rule is Marvel Studios, we're jumping forward with the first project in Iron Man.
Yep, Iron Man. So it came out in 2008, and this was the one that really kicked off the MCU.
Yes.
So let's talk about the overall thought of the movie. So when you saw it in 2008, did you imagine the world being as big as it was going to get?
No, I remember because the trailer came out when I was in high school, early 2008. I know it released in May of 2008.
Yeah.
But when I saw that first teaser trailer, I was just kind of flabbergasted at what, special effects have already kind of become.
Did you think it was weird that they started off with Iron Man? Because he was
for sure.
not a... Well, when you think about it now, it's like... You can't imagine Avengers without Iron Man.
Yeah.
So starting off with Iron Man, when we have only been getting movies on X-Men, Spider-Man for years,
yeah,
Fantastic Fours,
yeah.
we had
Ghost Rider.
We had 3 Blade movies. So to have Iron Man, who has never been even remotely in, I guess you can count like 70s TV shows. Did you see that Iron Man?
Yeah. Oh boy. What makes this different though is. This was when Iron Man came out. This was through, I believe, Paramount Pictures. Disney didn't own...
this was before, but Kevin Feige was still at the helm.
Yeah, but this was before Disney had acquired the rights and created the Marvel Studios.
Was it Paramount? I thought it was Fox.
This one was Paramount.
Oh, I'm thinking of Hulk. That's Universal.
Hulk's Universal.
Okay. Yeah,
so they were all different studios. So when Iron Man first came out, no one knew that this was going to be an interconnected thing that would lead to the Avengers yet. I ultimately think that really didn't happen, maybe because,
there is an after credit scene.
Yeah, but it's weird because Captain America was, I believe, Paramount Pictures too, but like Hulk, we didn't know, we were younger, I'm sure,
Yeah,
those
I had just gotten into high school when Iron Man came out.
Yeah, and I was just getting ready to leave, but...
You old.
Yeah, I know.
So old.
But at this time, we had no idea, like, the ramifications of, like, studio rights like we do now that we cover the business.
Well, yeah, we didn't even think about how big it was going to impact us.
Yeah, so Iron Man...
As far as that.
It's just weird that Iron Man was the first one. Like, I never would have thought in a million years the need for an Iron Man movie was there.
And how the actor, Robert Downey Jr., played him so perfectly. And not to mention that we didn't really know the characteristics behind Tony Stark.
Yeah.
I mean, if you read a lot of the comics, then you kind of know that he's kind of like this playboy philanthropist type of guy.
I mean, he appeared in, like, the 90s Spider-Man animated series, but you really, like you said, you didn't know the Tony Stark we were getting until this movie came out. So, and we really didn't know the Tony Stark we were getting until he progressed throughout the MCU and the other movies and sequels. So,
and then this movie kind of kicked off what after credit scenes began to do.
Yes.
So at the end, we'll get there. So overall thought of the movie, I know we kind of just touched base on like how we perceived it. As far as Iron Man, what does it rank on your Marvel scale?
I think this first Iron Man is mid-tier Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Well, it has to be because it's the granddaddy of all the Marvel movies.
Yeah, it's not. It's definitely not the worst. It is definitely not, top. I wouldn't even consider it, for me personally, top 10. I just think it's in the sweet
top 10.
I think it's in the sweet spot, right in the middle. And that's not to say it's a bad movie, because Marvel Studios 9 times out of 10 knocks it out of the park.
I don't think any of their movies are rotten.
I mean,
rotten as far as like Rotten Tomatoes, not like bad.
maybe Iron Man 2 or Thor: The Dark World, maybe. Again, we'll talk about those projects when we get to those. Yeah. But for me, it's mid tier. Like, if you're asking me when I was 18, when I saw it, like, what did I think? Oh my! I was in love. It was action packed. The special effects were awesome.
Heavy hitter cast. You have Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah.
As
Pepper Potts. Oh, there she is.
Well,
Jeff,
she left.
Jeff
Bridges as Ironmonger. You have the director himself, Jon Favreau, who was already huge in the movie industry.
Yeah, and not even as a director, but as an as an actor.
But no, he did Swingers and
then Zathura.
Zathura,
you're a Zathura fan.
I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't horrible.
I just love Dax Shepard, to be honest.
Yeah, he is. And Kristen Stewart's early role, Josh Hutcherson.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's what I like in a comic book movie. It's a good origin story. It's action packed. The special effects are solid. It's funny. I think you need to have that humor there, and obviously Tony Stark has that a-hole humor.
Oh yeah. He just thinks he's the business.
Yeah, and it like you had just touched on, it sets up these things that we would have never thought until we had seen the movie, like what the future of the MCU holds.
Exactly, and as far as the after credit scene goes, when you saw Samuel L. Jackson on screen, maybe it was like a minute.
Yeah,
I was like, what the.
And it was weird because
he was like, I want to talk about the Avengers Initiative. I'm like, dude, already. At that point, not even bought by Disney.
Yeah.
Still, had it was still studios. It was kind of like a Blumhouse. Blumhouse is under Universal.
Right. It's its own.
It was like under Paramount.
Yeah.
Well, not to say that it's under Disney now, but they have full creative control. They have their own division and everything. So it was like Marvel in association with Paramount or something like that. The fact that, and this is why Kevin Feige is the perfect man to like take on these like huge box office type of movies with the longest running, not rotten, whole film franchise. There's 24 with Black Widow coming out 20,
I think 24. I think you're right. I think it's going to be 24.
But dude, it's nuts.
Here's what it did really well is it didn't rush itself to open up this universe. It took its time, which was awesome. Like, of course, when you think of Iron Man, you think of his sidekick War Machine. Like, and arguably, I think War Machine was a more, I won't say well-known, but a little more popular at the time because everyone was playing Capcom versus Marvel or Marvel versus Capcom.
Yeah, and then
War Machine was the character.
Yeah, he's like the Hulk version of Iron Man.
Exactly.
It's like Iron Man's Bruce Banner and War Machine's the Hulk.
Yeah, exactly. And it did not rush into like a War Machine, but it teased it.
Yeah, and he's like, next time, baby, next time.
And then, sure enough.
And then ended up getting recast, so that hurts my continuity.
Yeah.
If anybody knows me, it's continuity that, sometimes it keeps me up at night.
Did you like Terrence Howard as James Rhodes?
No, I didn't. And this is why. It's, I've seen a lot of Terrence Howard's like discography, filmography. Yeah. And he just doesn't scream superhero type for me.
No.
He's more of like, he's more of a leading man. He's not supposed to be this type. And not to say that Don Cheadle did not deserve all like the praise and stuff for being like his, basically Iron War Machines is like his sidekick.
Yeah.
Almost. But they did that so well to where they're partners. It's not really sidekick. It's not like Batman and Robin. It's like Batman and Nightwing type of deal where they're both heroes, and they are off doing their same stuff. But as far as Terrence Howard, I don't know. He didn't portray an army guy to me. Like I didn't believe him that he was an army.
Yeah, I wouldn't say
as far as his acting goes. I didn't hate him. I'm just saying that Don Cheadle was obviously the better choice.
I think he's a forgettable actor in a non-forgettable Marvel movie.
Well, it's like what we're going to talk about next week as far as Ed Norton going against Mark Ruffalo.
What about Obadiah Stane, Ironmonger?
I thought Jeff Bridges was the perfect... Because you know him from comedy roles. Like RPID, which is the best name for a movie.
Too bad the movie sucked.
I liked it. Jeff Bridges, the dude, Big Lebowski. The fact that he comes in and it sets it up perfectly to where, like, okay, this is kind of like his almost father figure after his father passed away. And we'll get into that later in the movies for those who haven't. We're not going to talk about the whole MCU right now. And we get a first look at John Slattery as his dad. No, we didn't get John Slattery until season 2. It was someone else playing Howard Stark. I can't remember who it was.
Well, wasn't John Slattery? Slattery. Thank you. Was he not in the video segments, or was that Iron Man 2?
That was Iron Man 2.
Because Dominic Cooper played him in Captain America.
The young version, and he also played him in.
He kind of looked like a Walt Disney type when he was.
He would have been a killer Walt Disney in a biopic.
Yeah. I can't remember if Slattery was Iron Man 2 or if Dominic Cooper appeared in Iron Man.
He had a very, very small cameo, and as far as who played him, it wasn't John Slattery.
And then it had to have been Dominic Cooper.
No, it wasn't Dominic Cooper. It was.
So they've had 3 different guys play Howard Stark.
Mm-hmm. And it's not even on here.
Of course not. Well, while you're doing that, like, I think what makes the dynamic of Tony Stark so good...
Gerard Sanders played Howard Stark in the first Iron Man movie.
Wow. Look at that.
And then we're going to throw up some helpful images thanks to our video producer right here.
So what's really nice is there was a really good dynamic to Tony Stark. I do not remember.
Yeah.
With him and, Obadiah, it's that best friend kind of relationship,
almost like a mentor,
and then
because he was running the company until Tony Stark became of age,
and then just looking at him right now, it's
that scene. And let's get into some favorite moments of Iron Man. So that scene where he lands in, I cannot remember, I think they're in Sudan, Iraq, or Afghanistan.
They're in the Middle East,
where he goes into the tent and you find out that the terrorist and Obadiah are
teaming up.
Yeah, are teaming up, and then he puts on that little ear thing, and he plays it, and like he gets frozen,
right?
And you see all these blue veins popping out of their head, and you just see the ferocity.
We're both lost for words. That's funny.
So, this is our first episode, so we still have to find our groove.
I think we'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, we've been doing the DisInsider show. Plus, we'll plug that at the end. The DisInsider show for 47 episodes now.
Yeah, almost 50.
Almost 50. But as for what I was saying is you get the sense that, okay, this guy is going to be gnarly when he leaves because he wants his money, or it's either he wants the parts of his old Iron Man suit. I think it's a little bit of both, right?
Yeah.
And he walks back to his car and he's like, kill them all.
Yeah,
sprays them.
I have... there's a...
Here, I have another favorite movie. Go to yours.
Okay, so...
We'll flip-flop.
Okay, so we'll do multiple, go back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so one of my favorite moments early on is when he's in the cave building that suit.
Yes, where he's hooked up to the car battery. Yeah. Nuts.
And, he's trying to build it, and he's got his little friend that helped him. What was his name? I get him and Jensen confused. Is it
his
Jensen?
name was
Jensen?
It's Jensen?
I get him and Jensen. Okay, yeah. I always get him and Stanley Tucci's character from Captain America confused because they play that early on mentor get killed in the first act character. But he ultimately saves Tony Stark's life, sacrifices himself. When Tony Stark goes to save him, he says this beautiful line that he goes, "Go, let me die. he goes, no, I want to get you back to your family. He goes, I am. They're dead. And I was just like, oh, that's so touching.
The other line, he was like, don't waste your life.
Yes, and I really like that. So that whole sequence is probably my favorite moment. But I have a couple more that like.
So I have two back to back.
Go ahead.
So one, if we're talking about the opening act, is you really get the sense of how future MCU movies are gonna go.
Yeah.
Where he walks out in his Mark I, and they're just laying him out with like machine guns, and it's just bouncing off.
Yeah.
I was in the theater going, dude, that is rad.
It was rad.
Like nuts. And then my second favorite moment is when Pepper Potts is trying to get all the information off the computer.
Oh, before.
And he comes in, and it's super, super, like, uncomfortable.
It is uncomfortable.
Like, she's, like, trying to, like, take it, and she, like, covers it up with the newspaper. And then he finds out, and as she's walking, he's just leaning over the balcony. I was like, dude, that's nuts.
Yeah, he played.
And then the whole arc reactor thing was really cool.
Yeah, that was.
And then the dude from A Christmas Story. The kid. He played one of the lead scientists when he's trying to build the other Iron Man.
And he returns in a future movie we'll talk about.
Yeah. We could, Spider-Man Far From Home, he returns.
Which is cool how they tied that in.
See?
So
what do I love?
Good continuity.
Boom.
Okay, so the next moment I like is when he finally gets his Iron Man suit, he goes back to the Middle East, and the terrorists have a bunch of kids and families at gunpoint, and all of a sudden, just right out of his Mark 2?
Oh, where the
little lasers come out, kills them all.
Oh yeah, and walks away like all superhero-y.
Yeah, the whole with the missile hits the tank, and you're like, oh, did nothing, and then he turned around in slow motion.
See,
that scene right there.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring up just a little thing from Iron Man 2, and we'll get into this in a couple weeks, but with that little missile that comes out of his top shoulder,
right.
And they kind of reintroduced that back into Iron Man 2. With Justin Hammer, and he's like, I call this the ex-wife. But as another favorite moment is just seeing him like be him like Tony Stark. Like in the opening where he doesn't even accept his own like what is it, humanitarian award or something that. And he's like he put like $2 million on the craps table, lost.
Yeah.
And then Terrence Howard's James Rhodes comes in, and he's just like so irritated.
Yeah, exactly.
See, that dynamic throughout the more movies was really like set in stone about how they're like frenemies.
Exactly.
You know?
I really loved, and this is probably my favorite in terms of just visuals, my favorite scene in terms of just visuals is when he's flying in those two fighter jets.
Yep, that was my last favorite moment.
And then he hides on the jet. They're like, we lost him. We can't find him.
And then like he turns. He's like, we found him.
He's under you. And then they play it off like it was a military accident.
Yeah.
It was just so cool.
And James Rhodes was like, Tony, is that you?
It was so superhero Top Gun to me, and I was just
that's literally crazy. It's Marvel's Top Gun.
Yeah, and I like that, which is funny because you return to that Top Gun feel with Captain Marvel.
Oh yeah, totally.
It's going to be hard with a lot of these movies, but what was some of the weakest points for you for Iron Man?
Ooh, weakest points was probably the relationship at the start between Pepper and Tony. I didn't believe it. I don't know if they didn't have enough chemistry screenings before they got shooting.
Yeah.
Because we're going to get into a little bit of just Robert Downey Jr. himself before getting this role.
Yeah, for sure.
And Gwyneth Paltrow, she's Oscar winning, and she's top notch. She's been in so many like really big movies. And
I loved her in Shallow Hal.
Yes. And, you have this ex-drug addict who pretty much Hollywood was done with him.
You know what role he got before he got Iron Man? It came out in 2006. And it was the only role he could get. And it starred Tim Allen. It was a remake of a Disney movie. It was The Shaggy Dog. He turned into a human dog where Tim Allen turned into an actual dog. And it was not good. It was not a good remake. It was very sad to see Robert Downey Jr. go from movies like Chaplin to this, and you can just tell his career was getting destroyed. He was almost canceled.
At that point, yes. But guess what he started the next year? Zodiac.
Oh, that's right.
Before he got the role of Iron Man. And I think that's what put him slightly back on the map. as like, okay, he's trying to rebuild his career now.
Yeah,
and then they almost did not. Well, we'll get into the casting process for him.
Yeah,
in a
okay,
second.
okay. A weak part for me, and I wouldn't even say it's like weak. I would just say I just didn't like it. Is I didn't like I'll be on the opposite end. I didn't like Terrence Howard as James Rhodes.
Yeah, we were talking about that before we actually started shooting.
Yeah,
about Terrence Howard. I didn't believe it.
It's just he is. How do I he's good in certain roles, like as a music producer or a music artist. I don't see him playing, like you said,
superhero roles,
a hero.
Yeah.
It does not fit at all. I think had he have continued, it would have been bad, but unfortunately he had that bad blood with Marvel, and
but in the third act, I will say his character kind of picked up to where he was like the man on the ground, you know?
Yeah, kind of.
And that's one of my favorite lines.
The Top Guns.
Yeah, my favorite lines is he looks at the Mark 3 or 4 or something like that. Also, no, that's the Mark 2, the red and black, his iconic red and yellow suit.
Is 4?
That's Mark 3 or 4.
3 or 4. Okay.
So he looks at Mark 2 and he goes, "Next time, baby, next time."
And it's all silver.
Yeah.
First.
But I didn't understand that reference at first.
I didn't.
Just
either.
like at the end of Avengers. Well, just to jump forward, I didn't know who that was at the end credits. I had no idea who Thanos was.
Oh, okay. I agree, and I think that's only because we knew who War Machine was, but we never, as growing up, we didn't know that James Rhodes was War Machine. We just knew War Machine from playing him in a video game or seeing him as War Machine in a comic book. We never put 2 and 2 together.
But see, after seeing, and this is what was smart too, is after the movie came out, so many people went out and bought so many Iron Man books. I'll give you an example. Iron Man first appeared in Tales of Suspense 39.
Oh, yeah.
Let me see if I'm good on that. Tales of Suspense 39.
It is Tales of Suspense.
Of Suspense 39. First appearance of Iron Man. Nailed it! So that was it, and it's still from the 60s, so you know it's going to still have like some value to it.
Right.
And I think it was roughly around, if you wanted like a mid-grade one, so like a 5, it's like in the middle. You know, it's not too good, it's not too bad. I think that was only going for like a couple grand, and as soon as Iron Man dropped, dude, you can't even get a low-grade one under 20 grand. Yeah, you can.
That's the power of Marvel Studios.
Yeah, see, there's one for $7,500, and it's a 2, and it's refurbished.
And that's refurbished and a 2.
That means that thing was jacked.
Oof.
But yeah, so yeah, if you guys want to check out, they do have reprints. So if you guys want, like, I don't know if you're watching this, you probably like comics. They have reprints of Tales of Suspense 39, so you can get a kind of like an idea. Yeah. Of like how Iron Man was introduced into the MCU. So let's talk about Robert Downey Jr.'s history a little bit. He was a young actor, right. So in the late 80s, 90s, so you know that's going to hit him like Corey Feldman and Corey Haim and pretty much like River Phoenix, sadly, who passed away. Yeah. All those guys, you know, Rob Lowe.
They all knew each other.
Yeah.
They hung
and
out
they
in the
all
same
partied and stuff. Leonardo DiCaprio and Tobey Maguire were a little too young at that point.
Yeah.
But they were still in the mix as well. But this dude is just, you know, bad luck after bad luck after bad luck after bad luck. He's been to jail a couple times, been to rehab multiple times, got arrested for drug possession and all that stuff.
And to be honest, every actor within those, obviously you just mentioned River Phoenix, who was sadly into that stuff. The Coreys were into that stuff.
I went to the bar and they still have flowers on the curbside where he went into cardiac arrest.
Yeah, it's
Joaquin Phoenix's arms. Ugh. How sad, dude. And that's when Johnny... Sorry, I keep cutting you off. That's when Johnny Depp owned the Viper Room.
Yes. They were all into that. Robert Downey Jr. basically destroyed his own career.
Oh, definitely. He was just in bad movies.
And when you think about it, I don't even think he was like 40 yet. I think he was in his late 30s.
No, he's what, 53 now?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's gonna be it's about 15 years old, right?
Iron Man.
Yeah, no, 14 years old because I had just entered high school and now I've been out of high school for 10 years now. Ugh, putting some age on me. But as far as that, yeah, so I think it really kicked off with Zodiac, which is one of my all-time favorite movies. David Fincher is my favorite director. And he was so good in that. And then next year he booked Iron Man.
Yeah, I think, though, when he did Zodiac, I still don't think his career was on the upward trajectory. I think he got Zodiac, sure, but...
Yeah, 2007. I just want to make sure that I was right.
But I think Jon Favreau solidified him as like, hey, let me... Because he went to Marvel. I believe Jon Favreau went to Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios and the head honchos, and he told them...
bat for Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah,
because they wanted to go Tom Cruise.
Yeah, well, there's other names too, and
we're going to get to some facts.
Yeah, this will be fun. But they did have other names in mind for Tony Stark, and he said, no, I want Robert Downey Jr., and then his life changed for the better, which is awesome. That's super cool to hear.
Totally. As far as that, okay, so, I mean, we kind of touched on this, so for the first year MCU, let's just dive into it a little bit more as far as that after credit scene. So you get one movie, and I don't even know if Hulk was greenlit at that point. It had to have been. It came out in 2009.
Yeah.
No, it came out in 2008. Yeah, Hulk was 2008.
You're right. It was 2008,
okay,
2008.
so we were getting two MCU movies. But, and both after credit, well, we'll get into Hulk next week, sorry.
Yeah.
But straight up, it's like they were taking a risk for developing this whole map and not even having it come out yet and already setting up, like, I'm here to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative.
Well, yeah, and then they set up...
And then this universe just went...
This one movie is what correlated into 13, 14, and even beyond.
3 Iron Man movies. Technically, Civil War was also an Iron Man movie.
In a way, yeah. I mean, the 4 Avengers movies... it's setting up now series.
Now he's going to reprise in What If, still for one last go-ahead.
Yeah, and everything that's happened in these Iron Man films now affects future projects that won't even have him.
Totally.
Like Armor Wars is a big one. Iron Heart.
Riri Williams.
Yes, so it's crazy what this one movie does that sets up...
everything.
The
well,
greatest...
they mentioned Super Serum and all that stuff, too. Which ties into Captain America coming out in 2011.
It's the great... Iron Man has ultimately helped what ended up becoming the greatest achievement in cinema history. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
No movie studio in the history of
has gotten
movies...
that formula down. Yeah. Warner Brothers has tried.
Like, the closest I could think of, and it's not close at all, is probably James Bond. And
totally.
That's the closest.
And the Fast franchise.
It's the closest, but it's still a bunch of characters that are recast and retooled and different stories, where this is a cohesive, long-running universe that weaves in and out, to where not only does it weave in and out to theater movies in theaters, it's now weaving into TV. It's weaving into Disney Plus. It's weaving into animated. It's crazy what it's doing.
And now you have Iron Man up probably a little higher than what the comic book movies kind of introduced over the last 30 years now.
But here's the crazy thing. When in the 80s, 90s, like this, when you thought of like superheroes,
they did have an Iron Man, and it looked like danger, Will Robinson, danger.
Yeah. what I'm trying to say is 80s, 90s, further back, when you thought like the big superheroes,
Batman,
Superman, Spider-Man. I think you can make an argument for the X-Men.
Fantastic Four,
which is
the
weird.
Hulk had a long-running series. Captain America even had two crappy movies. One in the 90s, one in the early 80s.
Yeah, and a crappy series too.
With his see-through shield, and it looked totally like Kirkland. It's made by Kirkland. It's all plastic and...
It's so crazy. But no one would have thought Iron Man ever. And then when 2008 hit, now even today, like 13, 14 years later, if you told a kid, hey, who's your favorite superhero, in the top 5, Iron Man will probably likely be there. A lot of these characters in this universe are.
So that pops
insane.
Their popularity. Like even Captain America was not a popular character.
No. I think this will be even more fun when we get to Avengers Endgame to go back and talk about Iron Man.
Also when we get to Guardians, Because Marvel has this way with Eternals and Shang-Chi and Black Widow.
I like how you said Shang-Chi.
Yeah, I'm getting used to it.
Yeah, I'm still struggling.
So you have Marvel with this perfect formula and perfectly getting writers and directors that fit this like personality of this superhero. They make unpopular characters huge.
Yeah, for sure.
Like Guardians of the Galaxy, when that came out, I was like, who the is Guardians of the Galaxy?
Exactly. We'll discuss Guardians more too.
Yeah, we got all that.
It'll be tough talking about other superheroes. We're trying to talk about one thing.
I know.
That's what you and I are both doing. Like Guardians, yes.
Yeah.
Avengers Endgame,
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Yeah. So that was our breakdown of Iron Man. So these episodes are not going to be super long. It's, they're meant for like, I'm going to run to Target real quick or something. Let me throw on this podcast for about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So we're not going to keep them like hour and a half. We want to kind of bang these out. So at the end of every single breakdown of a movie we're going to do some facts.
We're going to quickly talk about these facts and what we think of them.
So, first fact. An early draft of the script revealed Tony Stark to be the creator of Dr. Otto Octavius' tentacles from Spider-Man 2, which Kevin Feige also worked on.
Which is crazy, and I bet you I know why that didn't happen. Because Sony said no.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
There was no deal ever in place. There was no thought of a deal ever happening. That Sony was very,
Oh, no, he didn't work. He worked on X-Men and Fantastic Four. I don't think it was ever Spider-Man, right?
Feige? Yeah, no, he worked on Spider-Man.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he's just comic book galore.
So, because Spider-Man 3 came out in 2007, there was still the idea that Spider-Man 4 was going to come out in 2009, 11.
Oh, 2011.
Yeah, so there was still that idea. So I bet you that's why they didn't go with that, because, they were like, maybe we can do something with Dr. Octopus in the future. We can't just one-off one of the greatest Spider-Man characters of all time.
It's all right. We're getting him in No Way Home.
And there you go. So that's crazy.
That has been out for months.
Oh, yeah, that's actually been out for a long time.
Variety reported on it.
Yep.
So if we've seen set pictures from like Iron Man suit, so he wears just like this top half, and then they green screen, they CGI the rest of it.
Suit stuff.
Not in Iron Man 1. They made a full freaking suit for him to dress up in, and it was roughly 450 separate pieces of that make up the Iron Man suit.
That is insane.
Nuts. So he got the thing.
It makes sense why they do mocap now. You can't even tell the difference.
No, you can't. Well, you can kind of tell the difference in Civil War. It looks a little weird.
In the upper shoulder area.
Yeah.
Same thing with
his
Infinity War.
with his like he's like on the ruse, and you could kind of like
yeah.
Probably should have spent another week.
It's worse on War Machine.
Oh, totally. Rachel McAdams was Jon Favreau's first choice to play Pepper Potts, but she turned down the role, obviously later appearing as the Night Nurse in Doctor Strange.
And I like it that way.
Oh, what's her name?
Dr. Christine
Palmer.
Christine Palmer.
Yes.
The
Night Nurse.
I'm glad things turned out the way they did. Obviously, Rachel McAdams was hot. Coming hot out Mean Girls.
Totally, yeah.
So that
and
was
and
she was in other projects, but that was her
the
thing.
more that you go down her filmography, the more serious her roles get.
Yeah, so
I just saw her in Spotlight, dude, and that is a nutso movie.
Yeah, she wouldn't have been a good Pepper Potts. I won't say good, but not a good.
Well, it's hard to
fit.
think about now.
It's just not a good fit.
Because if she would have got cast as Pepper Potts, and we were to talk saying like, oh, Gwyneth Paltrow was in talks, we would have been saying the same thing, like, oh, Gwyneth Paltrow probably wouldn't have been a good Pepper Potts. It's the fact that Marvel puts these characters in these and you believe them.
Yeah, and I only say that because Gwyneth Paltrow and Robert Downey Jr. kind of line up in age, where Rachel McAdams looks just a little younger. Yeah. Where I think she matches up a little better with Benedict Cumberbatch. I still can't see that relationship, but she'll return.
Yeah, for sure.
Multiverse.
Mm-hmm. So according to Jon Favreau, not only was Tom Cruise heavily in talks to take the role, Clive Owen, who was my big refan casted on the DisInsider show, the Fantastic Four. For Doctor Doom. And Sam Rockwell, who ends up coming back as Justin Hammer in Iron Man 2, were among the actors that were considered for Tony Stark during pre-production. Yeah, and then Rockwell ended up reprising his role.
Rockwell...
Or a new role.
Justin Hammer.
Yeah.
Rockwell would have made a good Stark, though. I think he would have made a great Stark.
I don't think so. I think Tom Cruise would have made a pretty dope Tony Stark.
I don't know.
This is an action hero, man.
I agree.
Mean, when you cast Robert Downey Jr., you're like...
I just don't see him playing a-hole. I mean, he played a-hole in, like, Tropic Thunder, but that's, like, a different kind of... That was, like, a producer a-hole.
Yeah, but I just look at the stuff that Sam Rockwell's done. It's like Green Mile. He played the actual killer. And, 3 Billboards Outside of... And even though that came out way after...
Yeah,
It's just like the roles, he has, like, a niche. He plays, like, the cocky...
Which is why he was a great Justin Hammer,
a-hole.
So... I just think he would have made a decent Tony Stark, too.
That's your bird. No, I want my bird. I want my bird.
I cannot wait to talk about Iron Man 2, for sure.
Okay, an early draft of the script. This is cool. An early draft of the script had Howard Stark as a ruthless industrialist who became War Machine. What? Can you imagine the backlash that if they would have gotten a white dude to play War Machine?
That's crazy to me.
It's like saying, Justin Bieber was in talks to play T'Challa.
Yeah, it's
That was the first name to come to mind. I couldn't thought of anybody else.
A non-actor.
Yeah,
you picked a singer.
It just reminded me that he was in the supposedly in talks to play Robin in Batman v Superman.
See, I want to talk about like Howard Stark, but I think I should save it for Captain America because there's one thing that I find strange about Captain America and Iron Man and that Howard Stark character.
Yeah, just keep it for the first Avenger. So Jon Favreau chose Industrial Light and Magic, which did a lot of the VFX for Iron Man, to provide the film effects after watching Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End.
Makes sense. I mean,
that whole third act of Pirates of the Caribbean was nuts.
You ask
that big whirlpool.
Oh yeah,
and then she grows like.
You ask anyone to this day what Davy Jones, the special effects on Davy Jones is
so well.
It holds up. It looks
more
so
than
good.
Holds up,
yeah,
dude.
It's some of the best special effects. Might not be the best Pirates movie, but it's definitely the best special effects for a Pirates movie. It's so good.
Yeah. So last fact of this show, when Tony visits Rhodey at the military base, he mentions pilots without planes. This foreshadows Falcon's flight suit.
Which is
that's so crazy. The nods, man. The nods.
And we would have never known that.
Nope. Mm-mm.
And we end up basically we don't find out about that for another 6 years.
Yeah, isn't that nuts?
6 years when they introduce Falcon.
Yeah. So another segment that we're doing on this show is like you go to our Twitter and you ask us questions. So only because we just started this podcast, we only have a couple questions, and almost all of them are not technically associated with Iron Man. But we'll just kind of briefly talk about these. And I guess it's Marvel, so we can just talk about questions.
We'll touch on it quickly.
So Jim Collins says, what's the best Marvel fight battle sequence in your opinion? My favorite battle sequence, and it's not Civil War, is when Steve Rogers in Captain America 1 goes and tries to save Bucky. He jumps off the plane and grabs one of those dancers' helmets. The fight sequences going up to there, like going through the Hydra base and then going in to save and jumping across that big on fire bridge. That has to be, I guess you can kind of put that as also an action sequence, but the battles, like he just going up and knocking 4 or 5 people out with the shield is really, really cool.
Yeah, that's a cool one. Mine, believe it or not, one that I could watch over and over, and it's because not only is it got pretty cool special effects and action, but it's really funny, is it's Ant-Man versus Yellow Jacket.
Oh, yeah.
Where they're shrunk in the purse and the phone's going off playing music and Thomas the Train, and then it wide shots to like normal size and it just tips over.
Yeah, and it just goes so silent.
Yeah, it's and then they make Thomas the Train big.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it more in Ant-Man, but that's probably my favorite battle scene.
Most overrated Marvel film.
Oh my God, overrated.
I gotta say Infinity War.
I can't.
No, you're right. I can't say Infinity War.
Most overrated?
Oh, man.
So when you think overrated, it's the hype is too much for what it is?
Ragnarok. I think it's a good movie. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's really overhyped for being a Thor movie. I guess is what I'm trying to say.
See, I'm gonna go.
Because you have Iron Man 2 and 3 that are not, they're underhyped.
Yeah, sure.
Because I don't want to say my favorite MCU film.
I know.
Because we rain that on a high pedestal.
I'm gonna say.
Probably one of the Spider-Man films, no?
I was thinking probably Homecoming.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to get too much into it. I like Homecoming. I just thought it was it was an okay Spider-Man film because it was its first Spider-Man film.
Yeah, I agree. And then last but not least, the question about the most overrated Marvel film comes from Connor Charles. Thank you for your question. And then, of course, our boy,
Elliot Bullock the second. Of course, there he is.
But I will say, he has the best questions.
He does. Whenever we do a Q&A on the DisInsider show, it's always really good.
Totally. He said, which Marvel hero do you guys see yourself teaming up with, and what will be your superpower or special skill? That's such a dope question.
Okay, so we got to pick the superhero we'd want to team up with, and then
Spider-Man.
And then we would want the power. Like, what powers would we want?
Power, I would probably have flight and super strength.
I would team up with... I would team up with probably someone that I would kind of get along with. That's a great question, Elliot.
I thought you were going to at least go Steve Rogers.
I thought about Steve Rogers. I would...
Or like Bucky?
I would probably go... Rocket and Groot because if you get one, you get in both with Rocket and Groot.
Yeah, true.
And
Peter Quill would be awesome to fight with.
And I would do teleportation, so I would be like Nightcrawler.
Oh, I like that.
I like teleportation and like the stuff you can do with that superpower, and where you can go, the way you can fight. It's just a quick, like the X-Men 2 opening scene in the White House, which is awesome.
That's a good battle sequence.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that is a good battle. But that's what my power would be.
Yeah.
So I'd say Rocket and Groot and then teleportation. And
Sweet.
if Rocket wants someone to steal something, I can do it. Give me that eye. Gone.
Yeah, and then you go help him steal Bucky's arm. Oh, I'm going to get that arm. Okay, so that does it for our first episode of the DisInsider. The DisInsider show. We've been doing this podcast for over a year now.
Yes. It takes our time.
Yeah. So that's the first episode of the Disney Catalogue. So this is kind of like the rhythm that we're going to keep doing. So come back. We're going Incredible Hulk next. So if you guys have questions, go hit us up over on Twitter. You can put them on any tweet, honestly. Yeah. But we will be putting out another tweet saying like, "Oh, Hulk is next. Give us your question." So try to go on there and ask a question.
Yeah.
But other than that, follow me on Twitter at Derek Cornell, but instead of L's, they're I's. Check out the DisInsider.com. Subscribe to our Patreon. It's www.patreon.com/DisInsider, not the DisInsider. Yep. We have 40. We just filmed our 47th episode, so there's a lot of podcasts to go through. Each one of them has a scoop in it.
Yep.
And make sure to keep checking back to YouTube and stuff.
Yeah. If you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Like this video.
Click the notification bell so you're up to date on these videos. If you're listening to us on any various social or podcasting network, subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. It helps us get searched, a little easier. People find our show easier. This is our first episode. We're finding our groove, and hopefully you guys like the show and what we're trying to do. And we're going to end up covering almost every single Disney property. So we're excited to take this journey with you guys. And I'm super stoked.
And what's funny is like the first episodes of the podcast, whatever we start, are always so like slow to start.
Yeah.
And now if you listen to the DisInsider show, we're just goofing off the whole time. Yeah. So this is what this show will end up turning into. We just got to get pretty much the points across, and then our groove, and just start being a little wacky because we are a couple of crazy guys. No. But like he said, subscribe, like this video. Leave us a 5-star review. Share it with your friends.
Please.
Check back. Find all of our videos. These are going to come out every Wednesday. At least for the audio. I don't know about the video for our producer. But, yeah. I've been Derek.
I'm Skyler.
We'll see you in the castle.